So, I've never been the sort of person that struggles with the thought of being alone, and for someone who's been called an extrovert, I actually think that I thrive off of the time that I spend by myself. That is, of course, when the act of being by myself is a choice and not something that I am forced into. But life is this silly little thing that I think you and me both have realized that we don't have control over. And yes, I can decide to keep living, to keep feeding myself, to wake up every day and comb out my ratty hair, to pour cereal bowl after cereal bowl. But when your university tell you that the hospital you get placed at is 2 hours away, and you have to move away from the new friends you just made and the life you'd finally adjusted to, things got a little shaky for me. I thought it was so unfair. I thought it was so unfair that some people get to stay in the comfort of their own homes in Nottingham, go to placement, come back, and nothing changes for them. But for me, an international student whose world had just changed so drastically, to then change again, I was not happy. I hated it. I hated the thought of going from living with my best friends to being surrounded by just me in a studio apartment in Northampton. I don't know about you, but I hadn't heard much about Northampton before moving here. And to me, that's a telltale that there's not really much to do there. And that was the general consensus, because believe me, I asked absolutely everyone I knew. I'd asked them if they'd been to Northampton, and they said, well, I stopped at the Northampton services on the drive down to London, and I went, that's not helpful. So this is what I did. I went onto Google Maps and I absolutely stalked the city, and I made a list of everything that I needed to do before I finished that 20 weeks of living alone. And I did the main tourist attractions of Althorp House and the rural areas, trying all the foods, all the restaurants that people recommend. And this was my final week of living alone, and it was time to finally crunch down on that checklist and make sure that I ticked everything off. And one thing was the gallery, which when I visited this weekend had a Vivienne Westwood archive collection. I wasn't the biggest Vivienne Westwood fan, but I really appreciate her work, and I'm a museum lover. I am. I love to stop and look at art, and I actually love to read about it, which, yeah. Call me a pick-me. I enjoy it, okay? I appreciate the finer things in life. Do what you want with that information. I also ended up finding the cutest Italian shop. It's literally called the Italian Shop, and it's run by this beautiful family of Italians who still had the accent, so it makes me think that they're first generation in the UK, and they had so much to offer. I had to settle for an arancini because my heart was literally craving an arancini. This was shoved with mozzarella and peas, which I never had arancinis shoved with peas before. And you know me, I had to get dessert, and I was debating whether I should get a cannolo or a tiramisu. I went for tiramisu. It was the right choice. Literally look at my face. I'm astounded. I was astounded by that tiramisu. I was also astounded by the fact that it had been gloomy for a lot of the time that I was in Northampton. I didn't really mind because I stayed really close to the hospital, and it was actually super convenient for me. I just had to hop on over to work every day. But it was sunny this last weekend, and it just made me really happy that I could spend my last weekend not being huddled in my little studio, and actually wanted to go out and see all of these little galleries and little coffee shops and get my tiramisu. Being alone also allowed me to spend a lot of time with my thoughts. I started yoga and meditation. I was a Pilates fanatic before this, but meditation was not something that I delved into. I meditated a lot on other people and how they've shaped me. I've been put on this earth to interact with others, and now I understand how to do that in a better way. I understand how to be grateful and how to show gratitude in ways that will make those that have helped me really know how they've helped me and really know what good they've done for me. So I wrote letters. I could have easily gone to the grocery store and picked up 25 cupcakes and called it a day and handed each one of them out, but a cupcake lasts 30 seconds, and I don't know about you, but I have every single card that I've ever received in a shoebox beneath my bed, and I go back every couple of months and I read them because they're material, but they're also not material at the same time. I think it's quite ironic that I figured out what my love language was the second that I started to live by myself, and love giving was infrequent and occasional. But I am a words of affirmation girl, and I wanted my supervisors to know how great of an experience they made Northampton for me. I feel like sometimes students, especially students in healthcare, are really looked down upon, but I never once felt like there was an imbalance of power between me and my supervisors, and that led to me feeling so confident in what I was doing. And at the end of these 20 weeks, I feel like I'm ready. I'm ready for the world, and I'm ready to move on to the next chapter of my life where I'm not in university and where I don't have the comfort of living with my friends, and where I can just live in a studio apartment by myself. And even though I would rather bite my tongue than admit it, I will. Everything happens for a reason, and a whole lot of good came out of me living alone in Northampton.